this October 2020, between the 15th to the 18th, the same weekend of this historic meeting, there will be a festival reenactment of the 1945 Pan-African Congress, incorporating debates, forums, seminars, exhibitions, and performances.
The aim? To establish a new cultural practice for Pan-Africans across Manchester and the UK, so we can establish historical legacy across the world. Big up to yourselves and big up to our sponsors. Let's make history, let's make a legacy. Come see our world.
See My World will involve the education, promotion and celebration of Pan-African arts, culture and being. This October 2020, between the 15th to the 18th, the same weekend of this historic meeting, there will be a festival reenactment of the 1945 Pan-African Congress, incorporating debates, forums, seminars, exhibitions and performances.
The aim, to establish a new cultural practice for Pan-Africans across Manchester and the UK, so we can establish historical legacy across the world. Big up to yourselves and big up to our sponsors. Let's make history, let's make a legacy. Come see our world.
See My World will involve the education, promotion and celebration of Pan-African arts, culture and being. This October 2020, between the 15th to the 18th, the same weekend of this historic meeting, there will be a festival reenactment of the 1945 Pan-African Congress, incorporating debates, forums, seminars, exhibitions and performances.
The aim? To establish a new cultural practice for Pan-Africans across Manchester and the UK, so we can establish historical legacy across the world. Big up to yourselves and big up to our sponsors. Let's make history, let's make a legacy. Come see our world. Saturday peoples, you're back with See My World.
It's your boy. Yeah.
So what are you saying
What's
today?
good? Yeah, welcome. See My World, a festival of Pan-African experiences. I'm feeling good.
I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
Yesterday was amazing. What was your highlight about yesterday?
Obviously, Akala did his thing and he smashed it. It was nice to get to grips with him, do you know what I mean, on a level. Because more time we just see him like...
Professor, books,
Exactly.
Pan-Africanism.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, actually, you could feel that he was really involved in it. Like, it was a comfortable and a relaxed conversation. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, I think, like, just generally, as far as Hakimedi as well, I felt it was like a really good gateway into, you know what I mean, why we're all here and what this festival is really about. Do you get me? So,
It was really refreshing, actually, to see Akala speak from the heart in himself. Because like I said yesterday, like he's normally on panels, tearing it up, challenging this one, politician this, sociologist that. And it was really nice to see him as a human being, just a normal guy saying, like, you know what, actually, why don't we do this?
Yeah.
I've had this thought, why don't we do that? I've actually been over to Ghana, they're doing this, why don't we do something similar?
Antigua. That was a new thing as well. I didn't even realise
I
that.
learned so much from yesterday. I'm
serious.
really happy that we kicked off the festival in that way.
100, and also like I don't know if everyone else managed to see the Suandi film put together by Manchester Metropolitan University and the Poetry Library. I had a little sneaky gander at that after as well, and you know what I mean? Well done. Like, you know what I mean? I think everyone brought everything together in such a short period of time, do you know what I mean? And so for what everyone's done, you know what I mean? And say credit to everyone, so let's clap
For
them.
real. Big up to all our sponsors as well, and enough respect to MMU Pack at 75 for Afil Hirsch's In Conversation. I've heard amazing news about that. Apparently, it was just an amazing event, and
That was hard. I think it was like, so in conversation with Khadija and Afua, and they were just like toing and throwing, do you know what I mean? It's almost like, it was like
Chopping it
seeing
up.
sisters on screen, do you know what I mean? It's kind of
proper.
like...
We need more of that as well, you know.
Pure resonance. It was pure resonance, you know what I'm saying? And it was a vibe, innit? So that was like a 1 hour in conversation. And again, it's like big up to Pack at 75 for putting that one together. Yeah,
For real.
special.
But now you're locked in for the big one. Courtney Wrights, Courts Wrights, world premiere of Rage with Words. I'm excited about this one. We've got a little interview after the premiere just to discuss it with the creative director, Courtney Hales. So let's get locked in. Rage with Words.
I write this rage out in words that scream the kind of hate that shudders shoulders. Closer to ears praying for nightmares to disappear. I write this rage out in words that screams the kind of hate that shudders shoulders. Closer to ears praying for nightmares to disappear. This is fear dressed in silence of the laws that floors black hands, that plead once again to be freed from having any need to beg anyone for a handout. I shout for every lost soul left to wonder why it had to be him, why it had to be her, why it had to be this. A list of names broken into swollen eyes where grey skies break sunlight down. It's black now, and I wonder how many more of us have to die before all scores are settled. It's black now, and I wonder how many more of us have to die before all scores are settled. This shit has me rattled, and I need a hug. Yeah, I need a hug as my head slumps. I need a hug from boy to mother who rages as the media manipulate. Sorry. I need a hug from boy to mother who rages as the media manipulates our heart rate with words that splurt. Let's eradicate all sick feeling with this is a problem that needs to be managed with less feeling. I mean, how can they say that? Less feeling. I mean, what is that? I think about every RIP that died. I think about every RIP before the fact that he knew that he was going to die, despite his words pleading, "Someone save me." All the while, people stand by paralyzed, looking on, knowing that to film this situation would give them a false sense of gratification. They'll say, "Why didn't I jump in? Why didn't I stop him as my heart is pumping and his heart stops thumping? Why didn't I save him? Too late, his soul leaves him. You killed him! You killed him! You killed him." And now, the world holds their breath. Knowing that to sentence a killer to death isn't enough to remove this heavy load mounted on lungs overworked. This is rage. And all I see is beautiful people hurt because of skin tone. That's all I see. Beautiful people hurt because of skin tone. Do you see the complication in this type of thinking? This is the downfall of the masses, hell-bent on keeping us in a deep depression, also known as segregation. I'm hurting right now. It hurts. Pause. I want to talk about doors slammed at the whiff of a name that sounds foreign. I've spoken to men who sidelined Shaniqua for Lauren, to birth babies diluted to a shade better suited for commercial usage. I've spoken to women who favour Dave over brothers with one of them names, especially if they're not attached to fame. The problem is, it doesn't matter if his tone is a shade lighter than his, because as far as racism is concerned, your colour is the problem that gives society a cause for concern. Your colour is the problem that gives society a cause for concern. Your colour is the problem that gives society a cause for concern. And now we light candles back into the night, fighting back tears on streets where man them died where they grew up and played outside as kids, as their bodies are splashed in TMZ and Fox News vids with explanation brazen enough to provide a rational explanation for their evident criminal murderous intent, where no law enforcement saw any reason to stop, cease, prevent. No compassion. With nothing to defend. When will it end? 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 As some say, let's pretend that never happened, or that hashtag Black Lives Matter serves to divide communities strained from neglecting to involve other communities who think that what we say isn't underpinned by ancestral love or recognizing the power in combined unity. This shit hurts. It hurts. Like walking into a room but knowing that you're differently disliked. be polite. But now, any look that's slight is just cause for a fight. We are human, taking back all of our rights. Just like you took George Floyd's life outside in the open, in the broad daylight. This is rage with words. You made me write this.
Wow. Wow.
Yo, Courtney. Can we have a round of applause for Courtney Halsey?
Oh, wow. That was mad. That was mad. Breathtaking.
Breathtaking. Do you want to come on?
Come on stage, bro.
My guy.
Yeah, man.
Proper.
I'm saying that,
My brother.
Always.
My brother.
Always. Thank you, everyone. For sure.
Cool. So,
Yeah.
what was your inspiration behind this, Courtney?
Well, as you know, the atrocities that were happening over summer, you know, it actually started from, I was working on another piece of work and the clip of George Floyd being murdered was on my screen. It came between a music clip and I didn't realise what I was watching. And that then, when I finished, I remember realising what I'd witnessed and didn't know how I felt. I felt a different kind of anger. It weren't to go and shout and punch up no one or get angry. It was just an internal build rage. And then went to the march, went with you, Rob, and we spent some time there. And when I got home, I just felt, I walked from Oxford Road straight to Didsbury. And when I got home, I sat down on my couch and I just wrote this piece, and it started off as a voice note. And it was just about making sure that people understand the culture, that the systematic racism and the pressures that we feel as a culture, it's so mixed up that it's embedded within us. There's decisions that we've had to make because media inflicts certain rules and limits to the way that we're supposed to express ourselves, to the ways, you know, and also how to get ahead.
Yeah.
But what's ending up happening is we've all been starting to get lost in the source. And I'm just getting tired of having to explain. And I thought Rage with Words was, I'm not talking any nonsense no more. There's no more nonsense. It's enough's enough. This is how I feel. This is how we feel. And it applies to everyone. Child, mother, teenager, adult, grandparent, whatever race you are, whatever colour you are, it's enough's enough. And that was it, Rage with Words. And also I want to just big up, I sent it over, obviously Rob, I sent you the piece as well as a voice note, but I also sent it to Steve Wing, big up Visionarism. Like, he literally came at me and said, we got to film this. And because I didn't want to, I really didn't want to, I was scared for it. And he pushed it forward and then got a little team together, Ben McCarthy, who filmed it. And then obviously the young star in there, Orin.
Family.
The nephew.
Orin, Luke.
We got the nephew.
Yeah. And it was just to have that sort of synergy in a space and to shoot something that was so passionate, that was raw, that even now, watching it, it was a lot. It's still a lot for me.
Yeah.
But
So was that
it's for the
before?
world.
Because I remember seeing you also. Obviously, there's like, it would then later spark like a series of like, you know, protests all around the world.
Yes.
And I remember seeing you at the Manchester March as well. Do you know what I mean? So was it like, had you produced it? Did you produce like the bulk of it after that point as well?
Literally, when I walked home, I remember walking around the march and just thinking, and just looking at everyone, because I see, yes.
I remember seeing you.
You remember?
Yeah, I'd seen, because you had a mask on, and then I could just see you, and you was just like there with the beret.
Yeah.
He had the black beret, and he was like looking at the stage, and he was just like,
yeah,
and I was
looking at
like,
you, because I was seeing you. And this is what the thing was, it's like everywhere I was going, like, I'm seeing my people, my friends, but where you're all on platforms talking. So I remember seeing you today on the statue, and I'm listening to you, and I'm going, it's a different kind of rage.
yeah, it's different.
Like rage doesn't have to be physically aggressive. Rage can just be because of a hurt. Rage, you know, rage could be from having to re-educate people again and go, look, we need to go find a way forward. And it stems not just what's going on in America, it's what's going on here.
100.
Like, what's going on in England, bro?
Well, the good thing about your film, it feels very UK centric.
Yes, that's the right.
And it's nice to have that kind of artifact as an archive now of a man who's feeling that way in a young boy. So I really appreciate that element, and we need more UK content that's based around our experience.
100.
Yeah.
So big up to yourself for that, brother.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Thanks for sharing. 100.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, See My World Fest. We've got a massive panel coming up next, the youth panel. We've got Heba Rose, Tiana Rihanna Taylor, Tasha Crawford, Kwame Shiloh. We've got Medulla on the mic with some spoken word poetry. It's going off. Stay locked in. SeeMyWorld.fest.
And also remember the socials, hashtag See My World Fest, at See My World Fest, and at Big PPL Community. Yeah? Sorry, I say people, it's big community. No, you did a little at, and you got to do the PPL, yeah?
Big people community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay locked in, guys. See you shortly.
See My World will involve the education, promotion and celebration of Pan-African arts, culture and being. This October 2020, between the 15th to the 18th, the same weekend of this historic meeting, there will be a festival reenactment of the 1945 Pan-African Congress, incorporating debates, forums, seminars, exhibitions and performances.
The aim? To establish a new cultural practice for Pan-Africans across Manchester and the UK, so we can establish historical legacy across the world. Big up to yourselves and big up to our sponsors. Let's make history, let's make a legacy. Come see our world. Really doing the BSL as well.
Welcome back, everyone, to See My World Fest, a festival of Pan-African experiences. Welcome to the panel. Youth
panel, I'm so excited about this. We've got Tasha there, we've got Tina there, we've got Sideman there, we've got Shiloh, we've got Heba here in the studio today. It's going to be an amazing event. Lots to learn. I'm excited to learn from everybody today, man.
Very excited. Just a few notes to say that this Zoom call is being also recorded. So if you are not feeling being recorded, please lock it off. Just lock off your cameras.
Take off the screen.
And we also have a BSL, British Sign Language interpreter. So
Big up Lily. Big up
Lauren.
Lauren.
Big up Omoyele.
Yeah.
You get me? So yeah, please pin that on your board if you require it. But to start off the panel, we're going to move straight into a poetry piece by Medulla, who's a young, aspiring, established poet, Pan-African from Manchester. Let's take it away.
Flick it through.
Hi everyone, I'm so blessed to be opening the floor today. I'm going to share two poems with you. The first one I'm going to share is in regards to my birth name, which is Marwa Ashe. And I grew up hating my name. So it's only in recent years that I've come to love it, and that's what this poem's about. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys want to see more of my work, feel free to follow me on socials, just Medulla, 2 U's, 2 L's. When I asked my father if I could change my name, he looked at me as though I had just told him that I no longer wanted to be Zimbabwean. Like I had just resigned from my post as his daughter and found home inside a new name. Like my question had cut open a colonial wound that he tried so hard to stitch. For a while, I heard nothing but regret in his silence. He was trying to find a way to tell me that some sunflowers have to water their own seeds. He said that the letters in my name are hieroglyphs. Not everyone is going to understand them, but there's beauty in being able to choose who you share your story with. I used to carry my name like it was a brick in my backpack, but now it sits in the belly of my being between my lung and my liver, waiting for that slither of hope that means that one day it won't have to hide. He said that my name is fluorescent pink. It refuses to dull itself for people who only color in black and white. My name is fluorescent pink. The single R in my name forces foreign tongues to their knees. It sounds like the marching of the unruly women that wore my name before me. My name is the product of the wars that came before me. It coddles the cries of those who died in Gukurahundi. And it's made of 2 adjacent A's that stitch together the syllables of my name like the double helix of my DNA. It's also made out of popping candy. It announces its arrival in your mouth and claims the space as its own. It's made out of popping candy that taints the tongues of those that try and tarnish its tang. Because my name was built for a Southern African twang. So don't be afraid when it enters your mouth in disguise. Because my name doesn't introduce itself to strangers.
Yeah, man. Medulla. Yeah, man. Oblongata. So you're going to explain a little bit about what inspired you to write that poem, yeah?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I grew up thinking that my name wasn't worthy of being said, or, you know, that it was ugly and all of these horrible things, when actually it's so beautiful. And knowing that, like, what it means, so it means flowers of God, like it really instilled a different kind of power within me. And I would just like everyone that has like an unusual name, whatever that means, just to know that like your name is valuable, it's worthy, and like there's power in your name. So yeah, proclaim it whenever you can.
That deserves another clap.
You're 100. Some like in love with names, yeah. Especially my name. You know, actually, my name is actually full name is Babatunde, which basically means in Nigeria, father reborn.
Wow.
And like there's so much power in it, like understanding that, like growing up, I'd go to school and that, and there'd be certain kids and that would just take the piss. But these times, we weren't really deep in what was going on. Until my mum and dad was like, yo, your name means so much, you know what I'm saying? And I suppose it's a great segue into this panel because it really explores identity, doesn't it?
Yeah, same for me. My name, like, I'm half Pakistani, half Jamaican. My birth name is Messiah, and it means the Anointed One.
Anointed One.
And like that name, I've even had it in Mayan hieroglyphics, and I used to wear it Remember?
I remember you did
Remember, I used to
yeah,
wear
with
that
the
like,
thing
you
round.
know, that name used to give me some power. Trust me.
Super
So names,
Saiyan.
what's your name mean?
Hebrew, it means a gift from God in Arabic. I used to, like, that poem really, like, resonated with me because I know I used to hate my name because it was like he, the start of it, it's like a boy. So, I used to think, oh, people are going to think, like, I'm a boy if they don't hear my name. But yeah, I love that poem so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maduda.
Thank you
That's
so
amazing.
much.
What
Yeah,
a great way to
blessings.
start this youth panel. So, we're going to introduce Tumi, who's going to set some house rules, and then we're going to crack right back into the panel. So, Tumi, take it away.
Thanks, Rob. So my name's Tumi and I'm the General Secretary for Big People Community. Just want to say firstly, thank you to everyone who's joined us on this session. We're really looking forward to getting into it and discussing some things. As Rob mentioned, we've got the house rules. So I'm just going to set the scene and explain the format of the show for everyone. So we've got our lovely hosts, Tunde and Rob. They're going to be asking the thematic questions of who are we, where do we come from, where are we going, and how do we get there? That's going to be for, obviously, the panel to answer within about 60 to 120 seconds. If you can try and keep it brief, that would be great. We've got a lot to get through. So they're going to be giving their answers from their perspective, but then afterwards, we're going to go back to the hosts, Tunde and Rob, who will then be discussing these, getting into it, and they're going to then come to me, and I'm going to be interacting with the audience members. I know you guys have been submitting some questions in the Eventbrite sign-up. So we're going to be making sure it's an interactive session. I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask your questions directly to the panel member. Please let us know which panel member you would like us to answer the question. So I just want to also remind the audience that a lot of you submitted questions and obviously we can't get through all of them. So we thought, let's keep it interactive and use www.slido.com, hashtag SMWF for See My World Fest. That's hashtag SMWF, the event code. Head over there, interact with some more of the questions, let us know your thoughts, let us know what you're thinking about Pan-Africanism in the UK and how we can best move forward. And then at the end of the session, we're going to get involved, going to be sharing what you guys think. So Tunde, Rob, back to you guys. Let's do this.
Thank you, Tumi. That was
Yeah.
spot on. So, yeah, today the youth panel is a solution-focused approach to issues of Pan-Africanism. And we've been blessed to have such a diverse panel from all different areas of life. And we'd like to introduce you guys. So if we could start from Shiloh, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
The mic and that, your mic.
Yeah.
My guy.
Yeah.
My guy.
My bad. Well, my name's Shiloh. I'm a hip hop artist from my side, Manchester. I'm at uni right now studying music production and songwriting. I'm also a founder and youth director of the 8-4 Youth organisation, which we set up about 2 years ago, which is a community interest company. And yeah, so far we've employed about 15 to 20 young black people from the area. We do a range of things, but I'm gonna keep it short and sweet and explain more later if we need to get to it.
Big up, Shiloh. Let's move to Tina now, please.
Hi, my name's Christina or Tina. I run a dance organisation called the Ash Company, also known as Aim Sky High, and I work also as a cultural consultant around different things with brands as well.
Okay, let's go to Kwame next. Welcome, Kwame.
Welcome, Kwame.
My name is Kwame Asamoah Kwarteng. I think the interesting thing is about the poem. My name, Kwame, means a male born on Saturday in Ghana.
All right,
so, yeah, one in every month in Ghana is called Kwame. One in every 7 men in Ghana is called Kwame.
Wow, that's mad.
Serious, isn't it?
So I'm from Ghana, and I did my master's here at the University of Manchester, and I'm the General Secretary of University of Manchester. I've been re-elected. And
congratulations.
Yeah, I think on my free time, I like to write around the cocoa industry. The inequalities in the value distribution in the cocoa sector is something where my research interest lies. So I write for some of the business newspapers in Ghana as well.
Okay, so let's go to Tasha.
Hello. Actually, that poem did resonate with me because my name is Tashinish Kachiri Robinson, and it's a very long Jamaican name, and I love my name, but no one can ever say it properly, so I always shorten it to make other people feel better. But my last documentary, I made sure that my name was loud and proud
Go for it, girl.
ever. And put it on those credits. I am a journalist and filmmaker, specializing in telling untold stories from basically people from audiences from my background. So, you know, young working class people, young Black people, young people of color, telling their stories, amplifying their voices. And that's kind of what I'm into at the moment. I currently work at the BBC, but this is my last day. And I'm now moving to ITV, where I'll be a reporter reporting on Granada Reports.
Okay, then.
Special.
And let's finish it off with Sideman.
Hello, I'm Sideman. I'm a comedian and a presenter, advertising guy, loads of different things that I do. My real name is David Whiteley. I'm originally born in Jamaica, and yeah, that's it on me, really.
Okay.
Big up. And obviously, we can't forget in the studio. Hiba.
Hi guys, my name's Hiba Rose Ahmed and I'm 16. I guess I'm a youth activist. And yeah, I campaign for, I guess, like anti-racism and human rights.
Okay,
Yeah, amazing.
Well, it's nice to have Hiba in the studio. It
in
makes
the
me
studio.
feel more homey, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, in the gaff and that. Obviously, social distance and that. In the gaff.
Yeah, 2 meters and thing.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to kick off now, yeah? This is the serious business. So, we're going to go to you panel members, yeah? And we'll start in the same order. The question starts, who are we? And we'll start with Charlotte.
Yeah, well, who are we? As Black people, I feel like the best way to describe us in modern life is we're the most influential group of people on the planet, really, and the most adaptive group of people on the planet, people that have been through the most and still manage to innovate and create and overcome. And yeah, we're constantly evolving and constantly leading on a whole a righteous way of life, I believe, because I believe that's what we come from. But yeah, man, that's who we are, man. That's who we are.
Okay.
And Christina?
This is an interesting question for me because until I was sent it, I'd never really thought about it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really prompted me to think about who we are and who I am. But I think to me, when I think of Black people, I think of creative people, nurturing people, caring people, innovators, and I think of, I know this might sound a bit random, food, because I think we always gather. We do. We like to gather around food, socialize around food, and I feel like it's a big part of our culture to share.
Okay, so Kwame.
So again, that's an interesting question. I think I would say that Black people are the most magical and humane humans on earth. That is how I see us. And I say magical because regardless of the environment that we find ourselves in, we still survive. We survive anything. We are the ones that can stay in the sun and stay in the cold, and we are still the way we are. And we are humane because we always put other people's first. We really believe in the collective way of living. We always care about the next person. I usually use the example that is in Ghana, for example, if you see a mad woman on the street, the Ghanaian woman will immediately go and cover the person with a cloth, because even though she may not know her, she still feels that the person is human and doesn't deserve to be walking around, naked.
Proper.
Thank you, Kwame. And Tasha?
For me, I think we're strength. I think the amount of things that we've triumphed over and just basically just exceeded all expectations consistently. And I also thought a bit deeper about this as well, like who are we now? And for me, now we are kind of like our parents' dreams. I guess, especially mine, coming from a background of being Caribbean and coming to this country with nothing, and my parents being cleaners and stuff like that, and me being able to go to university and do all these things that they never were able to do, and occupy a space that they never were able to occupy. I think many of us are first, second generation doing that at the moment, and I think it's a blessing.
Oh, blessing.
Wow. Sideman? Or would you prefer David? Sorry, would you prefer David or Sideman?
No, Sideman is fine. Don't worry. I'm not fussed about that. My ego's way stronger than that. Yeah, I feel like I'm about to let the team down, but when it comes to how I see us, I just see us as human beings. I just want to get to the human being part because I feel like that's what we haven't been treated as. Right, we're human beings with a culture. We have our own identity and our own cultures, because Black people are not monolithic, and I don't want it to be all. I don't want the weight of all of Blackdom on my shoulders, because that's what society has done to us. If you do something, then you're making us look bad, or you're setting Black people back 300 years. No, if one Black person does something bad, that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. That's way too much pressure to put on any individual. We don't do that with white people or Asian people. We don't do that with other people. So why is it done with us? So I just think that we should be humans. We're not monolithic. I'm not like you. You're not like me. We're all different, but we all are humans with our individual cultures depending on where we come from, and I just want to get to that place. And I feel like in terms of even like who we are, like I don't even know how to answer that, because I don't know yet, and I only come to realize that I don't know who I am yet as an adult, because like for instance, as a Jamaican, until literally about a couple years ago, it hadn't really clicked in my mind to accept that I'm really African.
Okay.
Like if you ask me who I was, where I'm from, I'd say Jamaica, and I didn't go back any further than that. But I'm now coming to knowledge of myself, and I feel like the more that Black people can be proud, right, in Western society of who we are and our culture, you'll see us starting to do things we were never doing before, because we're now embracing parts of ourselves that we were ashamed of before. Even just during this whole recent Black Lives Matter movement thing, I had a friend say to me, you know what, I've had my hair straight my entire life. And just recently I just got braids. I just decided I got braids, and she was never comfortable with braids before. So she's learning stuff about what she likes because she's letting go of what mainstream media has told her to like. And I feel like I'm still doing that unpacking myself, so I don't fully know who I am. Sorry, long-winded answer. I'm finished now.
No, fair enough. No, it's serious.
Let's go to you, Heba.
Like Christina said, I never really thought about it. So even on the way here, I was asking my dad, like, who are we? Who are as Egyptians? And I think it's a really interesting question. Adding to Sideman's point, I think we're growing, so we can't necessarily say what we are now, but we can look at our history and say what we've been. But I like the idea that we're growing.
Yeah.
I think as Pan-Africans, we're a collective, we're a community. Like, it's all unity. Now I'm here with you guys. Like, I feel safe. Do you get me? Like, we're all a family. That's what I think as a Pan-African, I guess.
Yeah, no.
So what do you want to build on?
To build on that, yeah, no, it's real. I think kind of building on everyone's points, because you know what I mean. Where like Shiloh was saying, like most influential, magical. Do you know what I mean? Like from a place of being, yeah. Like when you feel that power, like we have so much power. The realization of like what we can do. You know what I mean? And how we manifest things. You know what I mean? How we create things out of nothing. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a very fair point. Do you know what I mean? So then that relates to what Sideman's saying, because getting to a point of what he's saying is like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know like what I could be doing in the next the stream of consciousness that I might have. And I feel that like on a daily now, I hit a certain point, like late 20s, do you get me, where I was like, wow, like a level of consciousness. 'Cause I was doing things and I was moving in action, but then I got to a certain age where I was like, hold on, I can actually observe and pinpoint certain actions, and it's almost like I'm starting to become like more of a hold of my own life, the strategy around why I do certain things. You know what I mean? So if I do that, it has this effect or this consequence, and I'm learning my environment more. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm understanding it a bit more and what I need to kind of thrive. Like, you know what I mean, whether it's through health or whether it's through knowledge. You know what I mean? And yeah, to kind of get onto that point, it's like, you know, like where I'm going. You know what I mean? I just know that with the collective of people and the people that I surround myself with, I'm getting to that point. So yeah, I suppose who we are. Yeah. That's me, really.
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on the point of the human thing as well, because over 75% of this planet is this thing.
This thing.
Yeah? And what it is there's places on this planet called Melanesia. Yeah? And for me, it's the fact that being human is the things that unifies us. And it doesn't really matter what skin complexion you are, but scientifically in Africa, the variations of our skull framework is more varied in Africa than it is in any other continent on this planet. And that's a fact. And you've got all different types of countries that all have all different kinds of shades. And our history at this moment in time needs to be taught from a human perspective, in my personal opinion, by the way, not from a necessary black perspective, from a melanated perspective, from a human perspective, so that people can be made aware of the fantastical intergalactic things that we've achieved on this planet. And I feel like we need this. I think our children need this, and I think the world needs it, because there's so much that's been undiscovered, that's already been done.
Definitely.
And I just think that's exciting. Don't you though? Don't you though? Don't you think
Reading like history books on like African history, that's what I always used to do, and it excites me. Like, it's amazing what we've accomplished, and not many people know what we as Africans have done. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, thanks. So, I know Tommy's in the back. Gensec, what are you telling us? I know we had a few. We want to get like the audience involved in this conversation as well. So the Gensec, we've got a few questions from the audience.
Yeah, we got a question. The person that has asked this, Camille Jordan, is not actually on the Zoom call. She may be live streaming. So it's going to be difficult for her to ask. So I'm just going to ask in her place and then direct it to the panel member that I think.
Right, Tommy, before you do that, because she's not here, can we hear your perspective on this question, please?
Who are we?
Yeah.
I think someone's already touched on it, to be honest, but I honestly think the greatest on earth, the range that we have, the depth that we have, the pain that we feel, the love that we feel. I have recently come into a space where I am surrounding myself with beautiful, beautiful Black people, and being able to heal from very traumatic things that have happened in the past. This year has been very painful, but also very liberating, very exhilarating. And I think I've spoken to Tunde about this recently. Having a bit of a blocker in terms of expressing myself creatively, and just having people around me that understand me and know me and can hear and can understand what I'm thinking even without me saying anything. They understand the pain, they understand the good days, the bad days, the greatest on earth, the range, the depth, the power. The power is unrivaled. I'm going to say that again, the power is unrivaled. So who are we? Just remember that even through everything that we experience, whether it be racism at work, walking into a restaurant and they say, oh, we've got no tables free. That happened to me and my friends a few weeks ago in London. Even through all of that, I always have to remember that, okay, the power is a threat. The realm, the aura is a threat. And you know what? With that, I still walk in love. We still walk in love, but powerful beyond measure. Powerful beyond measure.
Proper. So let's go to the audience question.
Is it Camille?
Yeah.
Is it Camille?
Camille, given the pressures in society for young Black people, how would you suggest they overcome these pressures and become leaders? And I would like to direct this to Sideman, please. So I'm going to just repeat that one more time for you. Given the pressures in society for young Black people, how would you suggest they overcome those pressures and become leaders?
Good question.
Yeah, very, very good question. And, we've never lived in a fair world. A fair world is a theory. Since the dawn of time, it's never been fair. It's a fantasy. We can't even say for sure if it's real, because it's not something that we've ever experienced. And so we do have to play with the cards that we are dealt. But in playing with the cards that we are dealt, I'm coming to realize that everything that a Black person accomplishes is so amazing, because you become a beacon of hope without even speaking. Your existence becomes a beacon of hope, because when you achieve it, you say to somebody else, it can be done. And that's so important for us as a community. I now have a new goal when I achieve things. It's not just for achieving it for my personal blessing. When I look at I never really deeped inspiration before. I never thought about how important inspiration is until I saw young men from Birmingham thinking about comedy as a lane, because they saw me doing comedy.
Wow.
And that's when I realized that everything I do now, I'm giving light and hope to somebody else. So more than just monetary value, any young Black person coming up that feels like they're struggling, understand that you making it through the struggle is going to make it easier for a generation that's coming after you. And I think that's how our forefathers thought. And that's what makes me so amazed by them. When I think about people like Martin Luther King, when I think about people like Malcolm X, I think to myself, yo, they were in a time where it looked a lot less hopeful than it does now. But I have to believe there was some crazy screw in their brain that says, this can change in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Why would they work so hard? You understand? Even though it was a wild thing to think, I just have to believe there was just a mad screw loose in their brain that says, I'm going to do this. And I think we all have to have that mad screw loose. And we end up just doing some things that we never imagined or thought that we would have done.
Yeah, I mean,
and
wait.
that mindset.
Thank you. I mean, I want to move over to Kwame on this one as well, because Kwame also has been on a journey in his life, coming from Ghana to Manchester, and then, you know, like becoming and working towards being the president of a students' union. I mean, we'd like to divert that same question that Tommy put forward in terms of, was it in relation to leadership?
Should I just give the question one more time?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Given the pressures in society for young Black people, how would you suggest they overcome these pressures and become leaders?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think first we would have to even look at what pressures have we been talking about here. I think we have to really define what the pressures are, because I think sometimes I think they have this saying that says that, you don't see evil, you don't hear evil, you don't say evil. Sometimes it works, because I remember coming here as an immigrant, just like under 6 months and being elected as a student union executive, as opposed to having, like, let's say the black British and another Black people that have already been here. But because they have experienced this environment and its unfairness, and then me being blind to some of their experiences, it was able to now just let me get in as a blind person, just and I think I can vie for this position, and I did whichever thing that I could. But then the question I was asking myself was, okay, but how about the other Black people that were here, like those who have been born here? Why couldn't they come in for the position? But then I think it just drew my mind back to the fact that when I entered this space as a blind person who hasn't experienced what they have experienced, hence maybe preventing them from, let's say, maybe vying for those positions, it sort of gave me an advantage, but it also brought to me a concern about what can we be doing together? What can we be doing together in terms of the blind person coming in, and then the person that is already privy to issues here? What can we be doing together to support issues? And I'm pretty sure that is what the Pan-African Congress even simplified, because then you realize that we have leaders coming in from Africa. They might have not necessarily stayed in the UK to experience some of the things that Black people here are experiencing. But then they were able to come here, but then they were able to also get the Black people here to be able to join their forces together to fight. So for me, I think that what we can do is to, even though we are supposed to be conscious about what is happening around us, I think sometimes if we are able to then behind us just to pave way for us to positions of power, it helps. So that when we get into the positions of power, then we gain the strength to be able to solve some of the systemic challenges that have prevented most of our people to enter into spaces like that.
I think Christina wants to come in onto that as well.
Yeah, I do. Can you just repeat the question so I can answer it bang on? I want to answer it from a more practical point of view, though, if that's okay.
Of course, no problem. So given the pressures in society for young Black people, how would you suggest they overcome these pressures and become leaders?
Okay, so I'm going to answer it from a more practical point of view. So I'm from the performing arts industry, right? So our young people and the kind of things we do end up quite, let's say, high level. So my first thing is, like, no excuses. Like, don't allow yourself any excuses. Things might be a little bit harder, but there's no point creating those barriers when for yourself mentally. You just go and do it. That's number one. Number two is I am such an advocate of entrepreneurship and ownership. So in terms of build your own table, knock down those doors. Like, it's all about doing for yourself. Like, people aren't always going to bring you in. Like, sometimes people won't let you through that glass ceiling, so you have to do it for yourself. You find ways to do that. I say educate yourself, read, network with people who will be able to educate you as well, because there's different ways. So sometimes I mean, you can read a book. Like, for instance, I was at the University of Manchester. My undergraduate is business and politics, my master's in entrepreneurship. But building a business outside the University of Manchester is very different on a practical level. So I had mentors that would help me build a business on a practical level, and it's totally different to the theoretical side of it. So there's that aspect as well. But I'm all for, and such an advocate for young people understanding business, entrepreneurship, and economics, and investing from such a young age to be able to build your own table. Another thing is it's money in it. If you want to do anything, a lot of the time you need the capital to do it, no matter, and it's hard to do anything without money. So it's important to kind of get your priorities in order and look at how you're going to get to that point. And whenever I work with my young people, or like any clients that I have in terms of building their brand, I always say, give me your long-term goals and let's work backwards, because what we'll do is we'll goal set from your long-term goals. But that's my more practical take on that.
Yeah,
Love that.
Love that as well. And I suppose someone like Shiloh, who is, a youth activist and also, propelling an organisation in that way, a community interest company with 84 youth. I mean, would you like to give us like an insight into like your journey within that as well? And how you've been doing some of those things?
Yeah, of course. In terms of the 84 youth, that's something I've been surrounded by youth work my whole life. My mum's a youth worker, and I've been surrounded just around people in the community my whole life, you know what I'm saying? So when it came to setting up an organisation, there was many things that culminated to this happening. A lot of tragic things happening, you know what I'm saying? A lot of deaths involved, a lot of people getting sent to prison. But basically no other youth organisation was supporting what we felt like should be supported and providing services that we felt like should be provided. So what we needed to do was set one up ourselves, like you say, like Tina was saying, you need to create your own table, you know what I'm saying? Create your own table. And in terms of 84 Youth, that's what we did. But building on the question and building on what Sideman said, I think inspiration is a very, very essential thing that we need to flip in. I feel like it's something we can tune into, inspiration. You can get it from anywhere. We can look at our history and see the greatness that we've accomplished and the civilizations we've been a part of. And we can look around now, because that greatness is in all of us. It's a spark that's within all of us. So you can look around today and in any form, any dimension of life, you're going to see us literally just being great, to say the least, you know what I'm saying? And also building on what Tina said, no victimization, no excuses, no, you know what I'm saying? Because I've been through that stage. Like when I first learned about like the atrocities that have been like performed against our people, like just historically, it did make me a bit down in the dumps for a while, a bit like, like what's going on, that state of victimization, like how am I supposed to do what I want to do? And I had to let go of that quick, because it served no purpose for my evolution of consciousness, you know what I mean? So yeah man.
Thank you. Tasha, do you want to come in?
I just want to agree with everything everybody else has said, but the biggest thing for me is building your own network. I think that's massive, because quite often right now we're occupying spaces where we're the onlys. And when you're the only one in that space, it can be really, really difficult and tiring to keep fighting all the time. And sometimes you can't do it. But if you build a network, then you can have other people who will have your back at those points where you cannot physically hold yourself up. And that will give you strength to continue. So, for instance, in the media industry, there aren't many producer directors who look like me. I've got a massive network of females who are in the industry, who are also from ethnic minorities, who also go through the same things. And when each other goes through stuff, we're there for help, advice, support, all that stuff. And that's something we created for ourselves, because we knew that no one was going to give us anything. No one was going to be there for us if we were to fall. So we created that for ourselves. And again, there's always going to be crap that you have to go through and navigate through. You just need to put your head down and go through it, because at the end of the day, me now looking back and me looking forward, all the people who were above me, older than me coming up, they'd supported me, and now I'm supporting the next generation. And the next generation can see me now as a way to get where they want to be. So when you're thinking about that, think that, as Sideman said, you are paving the way for the next generation, and they will have it just that little bit easier than you did because you did that work for them.
Yeah. It's mad interesting you're talking about, you know what I mean, the isolation within there, because I remember coming in as a producer, as a project manager, and you know, maybe not seeing so many people that are around that were doing this stuff, but then realizing that actually these are like titles that are put on things, and actually your mum or your dad or an uncle, you get me, or your brethren is probably a producer, but he's just not calling himself a producer, or they're a director, but they're not calling themselves as director. Do you know what I mean? We've come into this terminology, this nomenclature, and we're like, oh, right, cool. So actually we need to kind of like, you know what I mean, assume these roles and actually like put it into like tangible things. I suppose like what like Christina was talking about, and like how you do that in such a way where it's like with a level of purpose, you know what I mean, to move it along. So yeah, I think that was really, really interesting.
I just wanted to touch on that as well, Tasha, because when I won my election, just like Kwame, it was 2010 now, I was told at the time that I was the first African Caribbean or Pan-African president in the history of any of the universities. And at the time it's like, oh yeah, that sounds like an amazing thing. But at the same time I was thinking, but how is that so? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's 2010. Do you know what I mean? But who knows if there was one before, because we aren't being told that these things are happening.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And then Tunde came after, and then there was 9 after that.
Yeah.
There was 9 Pan-African general secretaries.
It was like one after the other.
Or
like,
presidents, or
literally
student activities officer after me. And I just pray to God that that story can be told. And I think we need to do something on BBC for that, because it's so important what you've just said there, the onlys, and making sure that we build that network. So
100.
Let's hear from Hiba as well.
Hiba, your thoughts?
Just like as a Pan-African, I guess just 100% I back and agree with all their points. But I think understanding that you're not the only one on that journey. There's so many other people on it, and like Tasha said, networking and stuff like that. But yeah, just agree with everyone's points mentioned.
Cool. So let's go back to Sideman. Simon, you got anything to add to what people have said on this particular thing? Because you was on one there, and I feel like you need to just continue with what you was doing. We'll bring you back in, Simon. Don't worry.
I feel like everybody summed it up beautifully from multiple different points. I really liked what Tina said, because at the end of the day, everything all boils down to a determined mind at the end of the day.
That's right.
Like we find multiple ways to give people advice and blah blah blah. Like you could every advice that you could ever give in life, when it really boils down to it, yeah. If you don't do something, it doesn't get done. If you aren't a part of the process, but then equally, I agree with what Tasha said, simply because that network thing is a real thing, and it's good to have support around you. And when my network has never necessarily been within the industry, though, that's or any industry that I've been in. That's the interesting thing about it.
Wow.
I've never really took up that many friends in the industry, which is why I'm rarely ever salty, because I don't expect anything from anybody. Like if somebody even promises me something, this is the promise of essentially a stranger. I don't know these people, but the reason why I've never felt that need to gravitate towards people that do what I do is because simply I feel like I've just got such a strong support system at home. I got real friends and a real family. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, I don't know. It's interesting here because my family are very interested, because people love to comment in my comment section. Your parents must be so proud of you, proud of what you're doing. But you know, when I get around my parents, I get a very balanced view of my career. Like it's extremely balanced. They'll be like, I'll be like, yeah, mom, I did this, or I got that much money. It's like, yeah, but are you good though? Are you everything all right morally? Is everything like? Do you get what I'm saying? I'm getting
Brilliant.
There's that congratulations, but is that, are you good inside though? And because I'm always being challenged by those things, I always look at my career in a very balanced way. I'm never too gassed when things are going well, and then I'm never too sad when things are going bad. So I also believe it is important to have a network, as well as I believe it's important to understand that at the end of the day, if you don't get up off your bottom, nothing's going to get done.
Yeah, and on that, I'm actually going to say, I was told when I was a governor of the university, your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So if your network is tough, that means your net worth is high. And if your
You have to know how to
network
have a
is...
good network though, because the reason why I say that is because I got a lot of friends, right, that are millionaires, right? And I got advice. I got advice from somebody one time, and they said to me, when you have friends in powerful places, imagine in your mind that you have 5 tokens. There's 5 favors you get to ask from them. Now, when you put a limit on the amount of favors you get to ask for them, you don't waste your time asking them for foolishness. You wait until something makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So some people can't keep a network because they don't know how to make people feel comfortable, because every time you pop up, it's asking for a favor. Sometimes when you're around successful people, they just want to feel like you'd be willing to have a conversation with them. That doesn't have an ulterior motive.
Like this.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So we're on to the next question now. So thank you, guys. The next question is, where do we come from? And let's start with Tina.
Where do we come from? See, this is a really open-ended question that, like, once again, I never...
Any direction you want. However you want.
Your perspective, you know what I mean?
From your perspective.
From my perspective, where do we come from? I think it's... obviously, there's, like, your heritage, your ancestry, but I think a lot of it's also down to your environment. And I think that's a very individual thing. So, for instance, for me, I was born in London, but I grew up in Old Trafford in the middle of like some of the worst times, especially as a teenager, for like gang and gun crime. So that really impacted my kind of teenage years and view of the world. So I remember, and anyone who's from Manchester will understand how ridiculous this is. I remember, so my mum wanted me to go to university. I didn't really want to go to university. It's the best thing that she'd done for me, though. But I just stayed in Manchester because I couldn't be bothered going anywhere else. And I remember being in a lecture about terrorism, and the lecturer asking, where are you most likely to find a gun? And one of the students put their hands up and said, Didsbury.
Wow.
And I thought, if this is rough, like, where the hell have I come from? Like,
Didsbury, you know.
Yeah, knowing it. And I think for me, that made me realise, like, the kind of how I was living was not necessarily like, it's not normal to have friends in prison or to be writing letters or to have friends who've had cameras installed outside the house because they're up to too much badness. So for me, my environment has made me who I am, and I think there's a lot of intersectionalities within being Black that change who you are and shape who you are. So I guess that's my more individual perspective on who we are. I think we're a product of our environment and our home. Sorry, I have to say this one more time. Obviously, I have 2 children, so all I ever do is like research the importance of being a parent and how it shapes them, to ensure that I give them the most balanced and morally and like in terms of like just building them into great people. And I've been doing a lot of research on this, and it's also, most of it comes from home.
Amazing. Who would you like to direct that question to? You can direct it to anyone on the panel now.
Tasha.
I was thinking the same thing, you know.
Yeah,
I was
just open it up, man. Just have a conversation, all of us together.
Yeah, fair.
For me, I completely agree with Tina, but I think culturally mine's a little bit different, because I agree with Sideman as well, with being Jamaican and us being like, we're not African, rare. But what I was lucky, I think what I was lucky to experience was I had a very strong sister who was very into Pan-Africanism and our history and where we come from, and embracing our dark skin and our Afro hair and all that beauty that is to be Black. And I've just actually recently done a DNA test to find out where I've come from, basically, because I do feel lost as a Jamaican. Like, I am so proud of who I am, Jamaican flag and everything, but I also want to know where I've come from, and it's something that I feel very lost in because we don't have the culture. And when somebody asks me what my name means, I can't give them an answer because it doesn't really mean anything. And I think the biggest thing for me, looking at who we are, is spirituality. I feel like spirituality connects us and connects me to my past and who I am. And I found out that I am half Nigerian and Senegalese and cool.
Love that.
But yeah, so I'm embracing that side of me. I can't really answer the question of who I am because I kind of don't know because of where I'm from and who I am.
No, but that's so interesting. Have any of you guys had one of those DNA tests?
Oh, they're expensive, no.
I know. Well, so I'm a twin. So my twin sister had it, and there was Benin, Togo, France, Amerindian, North Pakistani, so Central India, South India. I just think it's bonkers.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
nomads,
bonkers.
Absolute nomads, you know what I mean? Just getting about, innit? It's getting about and doing our bit, innit? Reproduction and that, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? A little bit over here, a little bit over there. Hey, what's this?
But obviously there's a serious nature of the triangular trade as well.
Yeah, no, it's all mad. It's all mad.
But at the same time, I think it's absolutely wonderful that being Caribbean, you're from so many different spaces. But for me, I would like to understand where my Amerindian heritage came from. You know, the natives to the Caribbean. And I feel like there's more work to be done in understanding the history and the archivation of the native Caribbean people. Because I've heard of Arawak this and Taino that and da and ba. And then you think, oh yeah, I'm Arawak Indian. And it's like, no, Arawak is the language, the Tainos. And then, where are the Tainos from? Oh, they're from South America, from Peru, Bolivia, But there's no chronological timeline that's clear and coherent where you can say, you know what, if you're from Jamaica, yeah, you're African, but there's this person from Brazil or the Amazon rainforest or
Yeah.
But of course, there's got to be some legacy from that time.
Totally. I mean, I feel the other side of it now, because I would like to direct to Hiva, but in terms of like where we're at now and like what we feel most like, do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, you know what I mean, Nigerian and been back a few times, but you know, very much like a British citizen, you know what I mean? And like, you know what I mean, maybe the second generation Nigerian in the UK, do you know what I mean? And so I would like to kind of pose it to Hiva in terms of like, where do you come from?
Yeah, where do you come from?
Oh yeah, so leaning in closer.
Yeah, we're actually really interested.
My dad is Egyptian, full Egyptian.
Wow.
But he's obviously a dark-skinned Egyptian. And my mum, she was English and Persian. But yeah, I go back to Egypt probably like every year, and as I've got older, I've begun to like ask more questions about where we as Egyptians come from now, because we live in Cairo, but obviously there's Egyptians from like the north who are lighter in complexion, Egyptian from the south where we're from, so like near Nubia, etc. And asking like all my aunties, like, oh, have you been back there and stuff like that. I think it's kind of like a quest to find out where I'm from, because if I find out my history, then I can kind of find out what I am now.
Yeah.
In that sense.
I'd like to hear a little. Do you know much about Egypt or anything?
I like all my friends would ask me this, and I when I was little, I never really wanted to like get into that because I wanted to like embrace my white side, because I grew up in like a white in Burnley, so it was a majority of white people.
Oh wow, you're from Burnley?
Yeah, I was born in Burnley.
Wow.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of just stuck with my mum's like white side, and I kind of neglected my Egyptian side and saying, oh yeah, I'm African. I guess it shows in my skin colour though, because I was picked on in Burnley. Yeah, but it's cool. Sorry, I forgot the question.
No, you know about Egypt. Like,
oh yeah, no, I guess not. And once again, like it's a quest. Like after this, I'm inspired by all of you, like Christina and Tasha talking. Tasha, I love how you have the Jamaican flag. Like it inspired me to get more into Egypt, learn more now. So yeah, definitely.
Well, this is what this conference is for. So there's so much about my heritage that I don't know.
Yeah.
So don't worry if you don't know and you're saying it's a quest to find out. Find out, come back and tell us what you're learning.
Yeah. Every day. I mean, Kwame, please talk to us about where you come from.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think that's a very deep question, and I think people can approach it from different sides. And I'm trying to just sum it up. So I think I would just say that we come from a land of very fearless and strong-willed people with very strong value system that actually affects the way we care about humans, the way we care about the environment, the way we care about what we eat, the way we care about what we say, and what we do. And that is really what I think, that is where we're coming from, the place and the sort of things that they instill. I think in a nutshell, that's what I would say. But if I am to give examples of some of them, you will be looking at the way, again, referring to Pan-African Congress, the way we got our men and women standing up and saying that, hey, we have to go and claim back the leadership mantle that is ours. They didn't sit down. I think it reflects in what Tina talked about, like, you just go in. Nobody's going to sort of hand everything over to you on a silver platter. You have to go out there and then get it. And I think that is the kind of land we come from. That is what they taught us. We had the Yastan tours, taking the mandate, picking up the gun to go and fight the colonialists, to get out of the Asante land and all that. So I think we come from a land where we've been trained to be very fearless, to be very strong-willed, to be values focused, and to be the protector of each other.
Yeah, man. Respect. And I was gonna say, Shiloh, talk to me a bit more about where you come from.
Well, in terms of myself, like my dad's Jamaican, my mum's English and Moroccan and Egyptian. So like I've got a whole mix within me. However, I don't know much about my Moroccan and Egyptian side, to be honest. Like, don't know much about it at all, but luckily, even though my mum's mostly English, she like instilled in me as I was growing up just Black history, took me to Saturday schools. I was teaching Black history and just had books around the house that were very engaging on that topic, and had all these books around chilling before I was even actively like wanting to learn about it. So it was just always around me. So I never had that stigma in my head like, oh, I'm Jamaican, I'm not African, because within me I knew I was Jamaican, but I learned from a very early age, really and truly, I'm African. Like, it was a boat stop, do you know what I'm saying? Or something like that. And so I feel like I'm blessed to have grown up that way. I've never felt I'm any better than Africans or whatever, because we're the same people. And luckily, I was blessed to be at the Pan-African Conference in 2015. And that was another big stepping stone in my life, and just educating me about the history of our people and where we come from in that sense. And yeah, man, so it's just weird to be here, like speaking on the panel, you know what I'm saying?
Good for you.
Before then it was like, right, that was like a pivotal moment in my life that really that instilled a lot of things in me, man, that I still carry with me today, so.
Bless you, man. Yeah. What about you, Tommy? We're gonna bring you in. You're on mute.
Sorry.
That's right.
Got a lot of background noise around me.
Oh, that's right.
So in terms of where do we come from, I think personally, I grew up with my dad telling me a lot about and teaching me a lot about Nigeria and what it truly means to be Nigerian, and Yoruba in particular. So I've always had quite a strong understanding of, the cultural significance of the things that I do and the way that I carry myself and the clothes that I wear. Even our proverbs, for example, and how we carry ourselves with, wisdom, and how we apply those proverbs to real life. I think in terms of trying to maintain that in a world where things seem to be getting a bit more diluted and we seem to be losing it, I think the main thing really is like carrying that through, for example, understanding and learning your native tongue, for example. Tunde and I have been planning to take lessons on Yoruba and stuff like that. So, you know.
It's coming.
But I think also, I want to try and apply this question to the idea that this is a solutions-focused festival. And one key thing that we need to try and understand is that what our parents did for us in teaching us about where we come from and why that importance, in remembering where we come from, is that as we start to perpetuate and further develop Pan-African schools, we need to make sure that we take what our parents have taught us and where we've come from and teach the younger kids that as well, you know. So it's solutions focused, and I think we touched on that yesterday with Akala in the workshop that we did with him, the discussion that we had with him. You know, it's important that we remain solutions focused and don't lose what our parents taught us and carry that on further on down the line.
Cool. So I think that actually brings us nicely to our next question, which is, where are we going? So I think, who have we not started with? Let's start with Tasha.
I don't know. I feel like that is such a wide question about where are we going. I don't really know how to answer that. For me, it is building on the past and looking at how we can kind of create a better future for people who are coming behind us. I think the way that we do that is by continuing to push through all the barriers that we face, because the more we push through the barriers, is the easier it will be for the next generation. And I know I keep saying this, but I think that's the thing that's most like prevalent for me. Like, I got married the other day, and even looking at like my marriage certificate.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But like, on a practical note, looking at my marriage certificate, on the marriage certificate, my dad is a bus driver / cleaner, and my partner's dad is like a bricklayer, and now we are like researcher and journalist, and you can just see that development from generation to generation. And that's what I want to continue to see and continue to do, and continue to pave the way for everybody else that's coming behind me, continue to build and build on what my parents couldn't build on for us. Because I feel like when you come to this country with nothing, you do your best. So the next generation, they've got something, they do their best, and it continues and it continues. So that's where I see us going, just kind of moving forward throughout life.
So just to build back on that, because obviously that also relates to where do we come from. I know that Tumi's got a question from an audience member as well, that could come in right where you've just left off there, Tasha.
Yeah, so I'm going to direct this over to Balraj. We have him here in the Zoom call with us. Balraj, can you read out your question and also let us know who you would like from the panel to answer it first?
Easy, how you doing? Evening.
Hi there, Balraj. What's going on, Balraj? Cool. Thanks for attending. Yeah, big up.
You're just saying though, Sunday, you and Rob need to get some sort of talk show though, you know, I think.
Is it? Talk show? You like it? Talk show? All right then, we should do a little talk show. Yeah. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Where the rule at? No, joking. Come, yeah. Big up.
The question is, how do you feel about the move towards decolonisation of the cultural sector, and is this possible?
So who do you want to direct it at?
I'm not sure, you know, like, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what Sideman has to say, and then obviously then move it on to whoever, I guess.
Okay. Sideman.
So what was the question again? How do you feel about the move towards the decolonisation of the cultural sector?
And then is this... yeah.
It's slow, but it's happening, and we have to make sure that...
It was the pause. It was just the pause where you was probably thinking about it. He was like, well, you know.
It is happening. No, the reason why I say that is because obviously I get called to do a lot of things, do a lot of projects, right, that are about diversity, that are about empowering Blackness and celebrating Blackness. And then when I go to the shoot, I realize that I'm a mouthpiece and that I am actually the performative tweet in essence, because I'm the only Black person there
on the set.
The production team is white. They've written white ideas for me to filter through my Blackness. So by the time the idea comes out, and you wonder why you'll see a lot of Black influencers, right, And sometimes some of the stuff that they put out when it comes to working with people sometimes comes off a bit corny. It's because the people don't realize that the people in the background are just as important. They have a way in the media industry, right, of calling the person in front of the camera the talent, but the talent is in every single part of the situation. And I think that in the media industry, that's a metaphor for everything else, right? We have a lot of tokenism, but we're being used as the tokens. And we have to know when we're being used as the token so that we can speak out against that and say, no, we need more Black representation across the board. And not only that, you have a lot of CEOs, right, that are they're willing to give more Black roles on every level but their own, right? And until we're on that level, we won't be able to effect any real change, right? And then as well, it's just like, you can't just bring Black people in. You also have to make Black people comfortable as well, because before a workplace says to you, you might get fired or you might get treated differently because you're Black, that's already being assumed by a Black person because of Black PTSD. That's what I call it. I call it Black PTSD from just being Black, right? And knowing that what struggles that could bring. If you're gonna have Black people positioned anywhere, right, you need to make them feel comfortable off rip. You need to say, listen, well, if you were to speak up in this job, just know that you expressing your issues isn't going to be make you treated differently or get fired, right? So I use that as a metaphor for what you're talking about there, which is for everything in terms of Black people filling more spaces, Black and our culture not being ripped off by other people. We have to make sure that we are not a part of the ripping off by making sure that we don't just get gassed that we've been brought to the party, but we say, yo, where's my friends as well? So that's my...
I want to come in there. We're gonna let Tina come in, but I just want to say something. We have to big up Tasha because she's just done a documentary about being young, Black and British, and had a majority Pan-African, it was all Pan-African cast of young people, and her team was. We have to big up Tina because she's the one who put myself onto it specifically. We've got Shiloh, who's a CEO or director of his own company. We've got Kwame there, who's Gen Sec of a Russell Group University.
And also, he's brought in a whole bag of them this year, do you know what I mean? As far as, it was the first slate to bring in a whole international slate of students, so that's like
proper. Congratulations, you know that deserves a clap, you know.
Yeah.
That deserves a clap, you know. You know what I mean? And then we've got Balraj, who's got his own company as well, and he did Swing Ting. We've got Tunde here, who's a director of BBC, and we've got Heba here, who ran the Manchester Marathon. So I think exactly what you're saying there, but let Tina come in because she really want to come in.
This is just back to my point of why ownership is so important. And it's just about creating enough noise and creating enough buzz and understanding the importance of disrupting markets and how to disrupt markets. And we're good. Like, we're smart enough, we're intelligent enough.
I love that.
The main thing is that we just don't, a lot of the time, have enough resources. And that's why the network is important. And it's really hard. Like, I find it hard navigating a lot because like, I'm half Bangladeshi, so there'll be times I'm speaking to you about this, Robert. There'll be times where I'll have to go. I will, if I'm in. So, like, there's a lot of people that I know that are quite well off. So, you know, if they're Asian, sometimes I'll drop, I'm half Bangladeshi to get myself in the door. Or if it's, I don't know, if it's a white male, I don't know, there's certain ways that I'll have to behave, and if it's a white female, I might have to then kind of make myself seem a bit less threatening and a bit dumb to extract information to then get where I need to get. So it's about learning how to navigate those spaces, which is incredibly hard, but you have to humble yourself in order to learn. And I think, like, I've been doing a lot of research on, because there's a lot coming out at the moment, especially in like Forbes and a lot of international business magazines about the Black elite in America. And my thing is, like, because obviously Black people, we've been here a long time, but obviously Black people in America have a bit more of a foundation than us. Most of us are like first, second generation, third generation at a push, whereas they've been there for years. So it's looking at how can we kind of emulate a lot of the way they've become successful, your Tyler Perry's, your Oprah Winfrey's, all of those. How can we get to that in the UK? And that's where I have been like challenging people in high positions that I know saying, what about this? Why are you not helping more people? What can you do to do this? And this Black Lives Matter kind of movement at the moment and Black History Month right now has been a great platform for that. And it's about utilizing as well opportunities. So we know that we're Black all year, every day, for the rest of our life. But it seems like a lot of white people think that we're Black for Black History Month and because George Floyd died, was murdered. And as sad as it is, sometimes you just have to understand and recognize that you have to take advantage of the opportunity in order to further the agenda. Because a lot of people will be like, oh no, well, they shouldn't be doing this just because of Black History Month. Well, if it gets the foot in the door and it means that you can create change, just do it. So this is why, to me anyway, black ownership is paramount to us forwarding ourselves and building as a community, and then also getting those feet in the door, but knowing how to navigate it, because it's incredibly hard.
Right, so just on that note now, we'd like to welcome Professor Hakimadi. Thanks for your presence today. You've come in just at the right time.
I was in another meeting. It's October, so there's a lot going on.
It's all kicking off. Well, good.
Unfortunately.
Good. Well, good luck to you.
Yeah, man.
And we had actually finished the question, where do we come from? But what Tasha said in terms of where we're going was building off the back of what was happened before, and bringing to life the archive of the human archive and traditions and values. So given you've just chimed in at the right time, we'd like to just build off that question that was actually asked by Belraj, which is about the decolonization of the cultural sector, but in the presence of, or in the context of wherever we come from. So if you'd like to just answer that question. If you need me to repeat it, you can ask me to. That's fine.
For me to answer it?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, I have a problem with the whole term decolonization. So
okay.
That's
Go for it. Yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
I mean, I know what people mean by it, because people are concerned about what we might call Eurocentrism in everything, whether it's in education sector, whether it's in heritage sector, or so on. But the term sort of troubles me a little bit, because the first thing is Britain isn't or wasn't a colony. So why are we using that term? What does that term actually mean? So that's one problem that I have. And the second is that, if we were in Jamaica or Nigeria, we might talk about decolonization, but then what does decolonization really mean? In history, when we talk about decolonization, it usually means what the colonial powers did. So Britain says we decolonized Jamaica, we decolonized Nigeria. And if anyone knows anything about Nigeria or Jamaica, they'll know that nothing very much has been done in the interests of the people of those countries. So decolonizing was generally what the colonial powers did, not what the people did. So that's the other reason why I'm not really that enthusiastic about the term. I mean, I think that the other thing is that when we talk about what we want, what is our perspective? What is it we're aiming for? And to me, what we're aiming for is being the decision makers, becoming the decision makers in whatever sphere it should be, whether it's being education, whether it's heritage sector, whether it's cultural, whatever it is. That's my perspective. I want to be in a society where I'm a decision maker. I make the decisions about everything that affects my life. And so that's my perspective, the perspective of empowerment, of power. And I think that when you have that perspective, you look at things, rather differently. So anyway, that's just to put the question of decolonization in context. So for example, if somebody says to me, do I want to decolonize the curriculum or something? My view would be, okay, well, sure, maybe the curriculum is Eurocentric and you want to change it and this and that. But what about the education system as a whole? Don't you want to change that? Do you think the education system is okay if we have a few more, black people in the curriculum or a few more black writers in the curriculum? No, I don't think it's okay. Are you happy that if you go to university, you're paying £9,000? No, I'm not. I'm certainly not happy about that. So, in other words, we don't just want to tinker about with the curriculum. We want a different education system, which is actually geared to educating people at whatever level, whether it's nursery level, primary level, secondary level, university level, adult education level, community education level, where we are the decision makers.
So how did Hakeem? How can we practically look at moving towards this? Because we are in a state, governed by and in which we've adhered by. How do we take back this power that you're now talking about? Like, what are tangible steps?
Sure. Well, then we have to organise ourselves to do that. Whether we're in Manchester or wherever we are, we have to organise ourselves. As Frederick Douglass said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. So unless you organise yourself to change things, then nothing changes. It doesn't change by talking about it. Talking about it is good. Discussing it is good. But you have to change things. And if you look at history, throughout history, people have organized themselves to change things. And what we saw this year with Black Lives Matter, whether it's in Britain or the US and other countries, was people getting together to change things. You may start with a protest and so on, but it needs much more than that. It needs people to say, okay, well, we're going to get together and we're going to do whatever it takes to change this situation, which means also understanding the situation. What kind of society are we in? How does it operate? What do we need to do to make it different? What is the force which is actually going to change the society? All the things which people talked about in 1945 at the Congress. They understood, for they were in essentially dealing with the colonies, but they understood what the force was that was going to change the situation from living under colonial rule to not living under colonial rule. And they said, okay, we understand this is what we need to do. So we have to look at it in the same way. We're in a society where we are not the decision makers. I'm just talking about people of African or Caribbean heritage, where the majority of people are not the decision makers. So we have to work out, along with other people in the same position, what we need to do in order to change that situation. And of course, one of the things is you start building the kind of society that you want now by organizing, by establishing organizations, by gradually working towards what you want. And history shows that when people do that, enormous changes are possible. Going back over 200 years, in that French colony in the Caribbean of Saint-Domingue, the life expectancy was 7 years.
Wow.
7 years was life expectancy. It was the biggest prison in the world. 500,000 Africans imprisoned by, a handful of slave owners and so on. So you've only got 7 years, but okay, they fought for 10 years. Oh, they defeated the slave owners, they defeated the army of France, they defeated the army of Britain, they defeated the army of Spain, and they liberated themselves, they liberated the whole country. So if people living in those circumstances can do that,
what can't we achieve?
Can I add that?
Yeah, go on, Tina. Go on.
Sorry.
No, go on.
It was just interesting what you said about education as well, because my thing is we all do need to come together, and we can all do more together. But for instance, it's also about there's two points I want to make. It's also about questioning things as well as an individual. So, for instance, I was reading a book the other day, like I told you, because I'm obsessed with making sure that my kids start on a good foot. And one of the things that it said in that book was that middle-class parents tend to question and teach their children entitlement a lot more than people from a working-class background. So they will teach their children to go in and question a doctor or question a teacher or question authority a lot more so, whereas a lot of working-class people will, and this was research based, a lot of working class people tend to not question authority as much. So I think that is something that we need to do on an individual basis as Black people. I think that a lot of the time, because we're so used to being labelled, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I know as an angry Black woman in an establishment, or this sort of, you don't want to be that person sometimes. We don't always question. But now, me personally, I'm at the point where I'll question, and even like in my son's school, I've had to pull them up so many times. One thing is like, why has my child come home from Africa from school telling me that he doesn't want to go to Africa because they have no clean water and no food? Like, he's 5 years old. Like, why has he learned that in school at 5 years old, and why is there not a better balanced view? The three brown children in nursery were the mud in his school play, the mud. Another thing, like, I had to constantly be on at them about him being able to cream his skin after going to swimming, because his skin is different to that of a white person's. And it took me 4 weeks and a meeting with the head teacher to explain that can't happen. So I think it's also about us questioning all the time, because I'm on his school constantly about things in this regard, and making sure that he has a better view of Black people from and being Black from his early education, because it can be very tainted. But I don't feel a lot of other Black parents in that school are questioning that. And I think
that's the task that's kind of in front of us, isn't it? Because if you take a stand like you've done, which is very, very important, and it's very important that we all take a stand on those things which affect us. But the question is, how can we be most effective? Yeah. So if three of us can take a stand, it's more effective than if only one of us takes a stand. The thing about the sticks, you can break one stick. If you have 10 sticks, you can't break them. So if we can talk to our neighbor or our friend or whatever and get them to take a stand with us, then we're much more powerful. So, and that is what organizing means. It means getting people together to change things. Again, when I was talking about I keep going back to the Congress in 45, because that's why we're here. Mm-hmm. That's the event that has brought us all here. But what I keep saying is we have to learn from it. Because if we just say we're commemorating it, but we don't learn from it, what's the point of commemorating it?
No point whatsoever.
So in 1945, people got together. A dozen organizations from all over the country got together to do something and to make a difference. And 75 years later, we're talking about it. So what we want to do is to do things that 75 years later, people will be talking about, because we've made a difference. That's so right. If we can get 2 people together, 3 people together, 5 people together, we're likely to make a bigger impact to change things. And that's, it's hard work, but that's what is actually required to change the situation and move things forward.
Yeah. So how do we promote that kind of unity in terms of the understanding of that working together? Because I know it's like, even organizing and orchestrating this event, at points it's been really hard to organize with people who I think ultimately have like yourselves a keen interest to do this, but at some point something doesn't quite resonate where it can come off the ground, and it's not until maybe later on that maybe sees that reasoning. I mean, what would you say, and I put this to the panel, what kind of attitude do we need to instill to allow this thing to happen a bit quicker?
Let's start with Kwame, because he wanted to come in. Great question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate what Professor Hakeem said, and I think it is something that I've been talking about, that unity is what is required. However, you're talking about what are some of the challenges that we face in terms of like to be able to bring us together to champion a common cause.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the problem now that is actually making it difficult for us to come together is how we as Black people have linked our issues with political ideologies, and it may be unpopular, but that is what I have seen. And so you would realize that you may have a cross section of, let's say, Black people thinking that maybe our issues can be solved if I get maybe a socialist government in place. Another one would think that if my issue can be solved if I bring how do we call it, the conservative something in place. So you realize that everybody's understanding of the ideology that they hold on to is quite different. Everybody wants to pursue something that they want to do using different ideologies. But then you realize that because we have linked our issue, which shouldn't have anything to do with an ideology, we link it to it. So the moment you link it to it, then people now become more divided. If I'm somebody that is more entrepreneurship focused, for example, and then believes that maybe I want to get, I don't want to be charged a lot of taxes so that I can create bigger jobs and then maybe offer a lot more employment. You realize that I will strictly come into a position with maybe somebody coming from a more liberal side, then it keeps dividing us from that side. And for me, that has been the bigger challenge. And when you look at the elections going on in the US, you look at the elections going on here, and then you see the big divide between the Black people in the conservative side, the Black people here, and the kind of debate that we are having. It makes it very difficult for us to do that. So I think that we can only come together when we can still keep our ideologies, but we shouldn't let it mix up with race-related issues. Because regardless of the side that you belong, we are all still being faced by the same issues that comes with we being Black or someone else being of another color. So what I'm talking about is that you can still be in the conservative side and still not be progressing because you are a Black person. You can still be at the Labour side and still not be progressing because you're a Black person. So you realize that then we have that common issue that all of us want to be fighting for. But the moment we meddle it with a complete ideology, which comprises of a lot of different things, then it breaks people apart. It makes it very hard to bring people together. Honestly, that is what I have found. In Ghana, it's different because I have stayed in Ghana all my life. I just came here for schooling. This is what I have observed and has made it very difficult. I remember when I was running for election, and then I met one Black person. I was campaigning to the person, telling the person the issues that I want to solve and all that. The next question I heard from the person was that, which political ideology do I ascribe to? That's a question the person asked me. And I was like, I'm an international student. I am not into the politics in the UK. I came here literally less than 6 months ago. Like, why should you voting for me be based on the political ideology I stand up to? This is supposed to be student election. And this was a Black person. But even though I was talking to other non-Black people, nobody ever asked me that question. And he told me that until I tell him the one that I stand with, he's not going to vote. And I said, I even don't understand the politics that goes on here, so I can't give you an answer. So if you won't vote, that is okay. And I left. So that is what I have realized. It may be unpopular because it's so hard to have such kind of discussion with the Black people that I found here is so hard. So I think if we don't find a way of solving that, then now it becomes very difficult because we will be the same person talking against another Black person. Because we've linked it to ideology, and I don't subscribe to that ideology, so we'll keep fighting. But I think if you're able to take the ideology and put it aside and see ourselves as human beings, of one race facing a particular problem, then that is when we can now come together.
100. I mean, I want to wait before, because I know Shiloh's been here for a hot second. I would like to bring him into conversation surrounding promotion of unity. Do you know what I mean? And how we can promote unity within our communities to get to that point that we're talking about.
I mean, a lot of what I've wanted to say has been touched on, but in terms of the division tactics, it's just something that we need to get beyond, because that's something that's it's not meant for us. We came into this society, and what we're trying to take on, what the society has to offer, which is further confusing us and further splitting us apart. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that's the key at all. And I just want to bring it back to one of Malcolm X's quotes. Once he got knowledge of himself, and that was just once when we look at another Black person, we genuinely need to see ourselves, you know what I'm saying? And until that happens, we're not going to have our complete best interests at heart. Do you know what I mean? And we're not going to really want that change for ourselves and that unity which needs to happen. And it's unity that's been talked about from ages, from time ago. You know what I'm saying? From before the 1945 conference, from obviously Marcus Garvey and whatnot. So I think it's just a continuous growth of that. We've had many obstacles just historically to get over that, but I feel like we are moving in the right direction. And even simple things like, I speak to the youngers now that are in school and whatnot, and it's not as big of a thing to be clowning African names or whatnot, you know what I'm saying, or to be clowning. I'm sure it still goes on, but when I was a kid, it was like, there were certain things that were just disrespectful looking back, you know what I'm saying, which was so normalized. But I feel like simple things like that are changing, and that's just a part of having confidence in identity, you know what I'm saying, and confidence in where we come from, and that has to continue.
So just based on that, let's go back to the question, because you've answered that so eloquently.
Thank you.
Where are we going then? You're a young person, you're aspirational. Where are we going?
Like, I think it was Tasha that said this. That's a very, very, my question, open-ended question, and the future's always uncertain. But all we can do is set intentions, you know what I'm saying, and set intention for what we want, and that is the unity of Pan-African people, the unity of Black people, and as long as in some way, some capacity, we're always working towards that, or it's on our mind that in some capacity, then I feel like naturally it's going to become a thing. Like, when I leave this call now, or when this thing ends, the Pan-African, it doesn't stop for me. Like, I live that, it's my identity, you know what I'm saying? It's part of who I am, and me being that and spreading that energy around and letting people know, whether I speak to them about it or whether it's just the energy that exists, you know what I'm saying? I feel like we all need to embody that, you know what I'm saying? And people are inspired by that, whether you know it or not. But when you walk with a confidence in identity, then it shows, you know what I mean? And I don't have the answers of how we're going to get exactly where we need to get to, because I don't think anyone knows exactly where we need to get to, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, it's an open-ended question, but we just need to keep working how we're doing, and that's go from simple things like businesses, making sure we have our own businesses, ownership, and going back to what Professor Akeem says, we need to work towards, I think the best thing to put it as, working towards a place where we make our own decisions, you know what I'm saying, about our own life, and yeah, man.
Sideman, actually, let's go to Tina, because I know you wanted to go before, and then we'll go to you, Sideman. Is that okay?
Just want to add something quickly, because what Kwame said was really interesting about politics. But I think what we have to remember is that, especially in the UK, a lot of the time, the politics in the UK, they're kind of seen and attributed to class, and there's a really bad class system in the UK. And I think that's what it's more about. So I think that then also addresses the intersectionalities of the further inequalities within Black society within the UK. So that's all I wanted to add. It's a lot to the class system within the UK makes it a lot of different in society for Black people. It adds to that systematic oppression.
like status sort of thing, and
yeah.
Okay, so Sideman, we'd like to go to you. Thanks for that, Tina. Where are we going, Sideman? Where are we going?
In terms of how is that tied to the unity thing?
And it's just an open question. Where are we going as Pan-Africans, or whether we're unified, whether we're not unified? Where do you see the current state of play in terms of where we're going as a people?
I think we're going towards knowing ourselves better, and knowing ourselves better, and being accepted, and being prideful about who we are in society more. And I'm seeing that happen, and mainstream media has a lot to do with that, because, as I said, like, even when I look at how, you know, when Jamaicans were in school, they wouldn't want to be called African. And I think about the media representation of Jamaicans when I was younger and Africans when I was younger. When Jamaicans when I was younger, you had media representation that represented us in a positive way because it was mainstream. Bob Marley was a mainstream artist. So you had somebody where you could look to and say, okay, we like them because of Bob Marley or Beres Hammond or whoever the case may be. But when it came to being African at that time, all you would see is the Oxfam adverts, the big bellies on the kids and all of that. So when that's the media representation, then of course it's going to affect the minds of kids and say what's cool and what's not cool, what's okay and what's not okay. But when you look at things like, you might see it as trivial, but I think even a film like Black Panther has had a big effect on how proud Black people are of their culture, wherever they're from. I know Wakanda's not a real place, but I do feel like it has had an effect. And I feel like as there is more media representation, we're going to see us accepting who we are more, discovering who we are more, and being more proud about that. And as it pertains to unity, I've always felt, right, like one of the biggest problems with the unity thing is, A, it's hard to get anything done when everyone wants credit. And that's the problem, when everybody wants to be the leader. And that's what I'm not on. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if, for instance, if I'm in a conversation and I know a Carla's there, I'm going to fall back and play my position because I understand that he knows more than I know. Do you get what I'm saying? And sometimes we don't know how to play our position. If I'm a media guy and I know that I have a way of reaching my audience because I understand I have a voice with my audience, don't jump in front of me trying to talk when you don't have that. You don't have that lane. And if everybody was willing to play their part and be cogs in the machine, we would be better off. But everybody, I've seen this a million times when you try to get us together. Everybody wants to be a leader. Everybody thinks their idea is the best. And that's why I believe that in terms of moving forward, our idea, we should think more locally than trying to think internationally or even trying to think nationally. I think we should be in small groups everywhere with the same mindset. We all have the same mindset. We want to see ourselves be more proud, more represented, and all of those things. I don't have to be in the London movement doing whatever they're doing over there. I support them when they call me. When you call me, I got my thing over there, you got your thing over there, but our goal is common. And I think that if we stop trying to bungle, because bungling up in that bigger group, right, it's unnatural. I actually feel like it's unnatural because you're going to have too much personalities bumping heads. But as I said, that's what I feel like. I feel like we're going towards a place where we're more proud of who we are. And in being more proud of who we are, we will take more of a bigger place in society in terms of economy and in terms of representation. And I think in terms of unity, smaller groups, and stop trying to create the biggest Black movement ever because that's for clout. That's for you. If we did things, because there's this just last thing I want to say here. There is a thing called, what was it called? It's like racism clout. I've seen this now.
Wow. What's that?
Defo.
What? Racism clout?
People try to like.
People want struggle clout. They want activist reputation. They want I'm the activist, and now people are finding a new way to get clout and get respect and get love because I did this or I did that. When that's your motivation, you think about the fact that it's your project rather than the aim of the project. If the project is, let's say, to give 10 Black kids an opportunity, sometimes when I come onto the project, they're more concerned that I make sure to shout out their company or their charity than they are for me to help the kids. And that's what lets me know that the motivation is in the wrong place.
That's mad.
And that's what I think is happening a lot of the
You
times.
know what? Because I've never thought about it like that. Like you see it happening, but I didn't even know there was like a terminology that was attached to it. I mean,
I made that up. It's not.
No,
so
it's a real thing.
Is it a real thing? Because he was like, yo.
Yeah, it literally is a real thing.
Where have you got that from?
Because obviously if I do any like future marches or anything, my friends or after the first march we did said, if you need me anything, like I'm always here to help you. I was like, I'm not doing it for clout. Like it's real. People are trying to get onto this activism thing just to gain popularity, because it's big on social media and people know now they can make money from social media. And that's why everybody wants to be seen as some hero. I didn't really want to say like what I did because I was in fear of people thinking, oh, she's doing it for clout. She just wants to get popular. So that's kind of why I refrained from saying anything at first. But now, like, I know my intentions are good. So that's why I'm not like scared of people calling me a clout chaser or anything, because I know I'm not, obviously.
No, it's a very big point. I mean, we need to head back into our Gen Sec because we ain't spoke to her for a hot minute. Still, to me, I mean, I think there's a question. Yeah, we're getting I love this. Yeah. I mean, have we got the question directed from someone on this one?
Yeah, we do. We have our girl Lily here on the call with us. So, Lily, why don't you let us know, and obviously who you would like to ask this question or answer this question?
Hiya.
Hi.
Firstly, big love to everybody for hosting this. Thank you very much. All the waves. Yeah, it's been wicked and learned a lot, so thank you. My question is for anyone who wants to answer, but primarily for Tina and Sideman. And so basically, I run an organization that helps get more young people into work using social media. And obviously, the kind of next big step is not just getting diversity in, but inclusion in the workplace. So what would you wish your employers had done or can do or should do to actually be like make your workplace like inclusive and accessible? And obviously, yeah, there's been a lot going on. It's kind of a bit of a buzzword at the minute. But as in, yeah, were there things like practices that you wish were in place, or what would you do as an employer to make it better for young people these days?
So Tommy, please, can we reiterate the question for the panel, please?
Or unless Tina wants to come in.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I was going to say, can you sum it up a bit shorter so I can...
Yeah, sure.
So I answered it, and in my answering, maybe you'll get the question.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm just going to give one thing to and keep it succinct. But what I would like is for workplaces to be proactive in how they tackle diversity, in the sense that stop creating places for Black people to go to because we don't feel comfortable to come to you and talk about the issue. You come to us and involve the whole office. Just like how the offices sometimes they have whole HR seminars and how we treat each other at work. We need whole Black or diversity or cultural HR seminars that deal with racism and microaggressions and what the idea of white supremacy or systematic oppression is, so that we become comfortable with these terms and we can all know when we see it. Because one of the problems with Black people in the workplace is we don't want to talk about what we might have seen because we don't want it to be seen as we are playing the race card, or it's just a coincidence, you're making it up in your head. But if everybody learns more about microaggressions, and if everybody learns more about systematic oppression and the things that we go through, and that it's not okay to ask me if you could touch my hair and things like that, if everybody learns it at the same time, then my white colleague can defend me as well, because she'll see it as well. And if she has a heart, or if he has a heart, right, and is not intrinsically a racist inside themselves, then I can have more allyship and more support. So I think that it should be learning more about cultural understanding should be something that is forced upon all employees, not just something that you volunteer to go and have a conversation with somebody in a dark room and then the conversation stays there and it dies, because that's just going to make our problem feel invalid. So yeah.
I also think, like, on that point, it's like, even because you're talking about terminology, and I'm thinking about terminology and how even it's like systematically entrenched even in terminology. You know what I mean? Even the term microaggression, it's an aggression. It's like, it's micro. If I remove the micro from the front of it, it's an aggression, full stop. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's
right, what I mean? It's like, how we call this thing? No, it's a big thing. Like, it's rather big. Like, I'm feeling it. Something's going on. Like, you're raw taking the piss. Like, do you know what I mean? But now we've even put the term micro on top of it to make it feel lesser than what it really is.
That's such a great point, brother.
Do you know what I'm saying?
It's like subliminal.
It is. It's madness. It's madness. But going back into the question, Christina.
Okay, so I think I've never thought of this in a sense, because if all honesty, I've been self-employed since the moment I had my national insurance number. So, I mean, I have worked for... I have worked for a youth centre, because I started out doing youth work, but I've done freelance youth work. And the thing there that I would just say is the main thing for me, in terms of diversity and inclusion and all like those kind of things, me as an employer, like, I think we have like 12 staff, but I have 3 white staff, and 2 of them are very Black and cultured, like, you know, always around Black people. So it's and then my admin is white, and this was her first time interacting like this with Black people. So for me, it's not my organization has been more about teaching and bringing culture to white people as well. So for instance, so I'm talking from the perspective of Black-owned organisation, and then I'll go into what I experienced. So, for instance, even down to, we have 3 studios in our dance studios. We have 3 studios. One's named Misty after Misty Copeland. One's named Ailey after Alvin Ailey, and the other's named B after Beyonce. They're all 3, obviously, well-known Black dancers / entertainers. Anytime we have our it's just small things. Anytime we have our annual show, we make like the end of the show, like we'll have 200 kids on stage. They all know Candy. They all know the Electric Side. You know, the music within the breaks, it's usually reggae. I'm half Jamaican, so I might as well be full Jamaican because I only know that side of my family, to be fair. But we use reggae. The children are always our warm-up songs. You know, we'll use those kind of things. So it's just, and we moved from so our dance school was basically like 99% Black until we moved into Sale. And now it's become, well, it was around, I'd say 75% white. And now we've managed to diversify a bit more to make sure it's 50%, probably about half. And that's because we moved into a more affluent area. So they're just some of the little things that we do. And then we done like a whole piece on Black Lives Matter. So we educated a lot of the white young people as well as the Black young people on that, and allowed them to, well, not allowed them, but encouraged them to dance it. We brought in specialists that explained to them what the movement's about, the history of Black people. So we educate through our work as well, which is something, I don't know, it depends what industry you're in, but I'm guessing you can educate through the work that you're doing as well and make sure that it's culturally inclusive. In terms of when I worked at freelance, I think I really genuinely think that performative, people who do performative things should be sanctioned, because it's wrong. So, for instance,
what do you mean? Yeah, sorry, I was going to ask you. What do you mean? Yeah.
So, for instance, say you have someone say you have someone who, for instance, I remember the boss at the youth centre said to me, "Can you come in on Wednesday because we need a black face because the mayor's there?" Like she should be sanctioned for that. Like that, you know what I mean? That's performative. And she felt so comfortable to say it, she thought it was a joke, but it's not a joke. But even so, like whether it's under the radar or not under the radar, if things are seen to be performative, I feel like it should be sanctioned. It should be pulled up on, and it should be sanctioned, because they're the things that take away from the real meaning of diversity and inclusion. I think for me that's probably. Yeah, that's it. I think you can add culture and cultural education into a business every day through various different forms, and then also just making sure that, yeah, I guess that's it for me.
No, thank you. I think I've just seen Kwame's hand go up there. Kwame, have you got anything to say on that?
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Lily, for asking that question. And I think that first, we shouldn't see EDI as one-sided. We shouldn't see it as an entity that is going to, let's say, protect minorities. I think from my side and my current age, I feel like all races are victims of the past. So the other one is acting on ignorance, and then the other person is being a victim of the other person's ignorance. And so we need to see EDI as for everybody, encourage conversation. Because one thing I realized that every organization that we all work in have a different kind of culture that it requires, the organizational culture itself. And then now it comes back to the individual person's culture, allowing him or her to be able to fit into that culture. And so that is where the problem lies. And so if the organizational culture isn't too inclusive of my culture, then it becomes a problem. And so let's say you may have some organization that will feel like, we want to be as inclusive such that don't wear anything religious. That allows us to see which religion that you belong to. That is what some other people may define their inclusivity. So why can't we just have a conversation that is more contextual to the organizational culture, what the organization wants to, so that we can be very open-minded about it and can have that honest conversation. But what I see is that we see EDI as something that is targeted at a particular minority group. And it's like we are trying to solve your problem for you. We are trying to make you feel comfortable. We are trying to make you fit in. But it's not about that person fitting in. It's about all of us, our ability to fit in. Because I feel like we are all victims of a particular issue, just that one is suffering from it and one is benefiting from it. So I think you can look at it from that side. It should be contextual. And I think that is the reason why, if you have realized, in the US, there has been a concern that most EDI managers and bosses are Black people. Because then the assumption is that we are the ones that feel like we have problems and that we are the ones that can solve EDI, diversity and inclusion problems. But I feel it is supposed to be more of a contextual problem. It's everybody's problem. It's not Black people's problem. And I think we should open up that discussion and then be very open-minded. As a Black person, as a white person, as a brown person, all of us should be open-minded and have that discussion, understand, listen to each other. Because at a point, the way we feel offended by someone else's action, the person may be ignorant about it. It is the same way the person too may feel offended by some actions of ours. So why do we want to let the other person know, but we don't also want to give room for the person to explain that, oh, okay, maybe that really wasn't what I meant. So the person will learn. But if you don't give room for that exchange in that contextual environment, then you realize that we generalize every single thing and put everybody in one box, which still doesn't help.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thank you for your contribution, guys. We're going to move on to the next question.
Is it the final one?
Yes, this is the final question, guys. Now, so we've got literally about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I see Tasha's hand go up somewhere, I think.
Yeah, so that's fine. So basically, we're talking about equality. From our perspective, I'd say we want an equal world, no? We've had lots of, and we want to be perceived as equal regardless of our complexion, based on our merit and our intentions and the way we carry ourselves. How do we get there? And let's start with Professor Hakim Adi. And we'll have to keep these responses quite short so we could get into the audience. Okay, so Professor Hakim Adi, how do we get to a world where we're acknowledged for being humans in our own right?
Well, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but...
Repeat yourself. Go for it.
I know, I just think that it's good to look at what people said in 1945.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
what did people say in 1945?
In the sense that, well, if we don't know that, why are we commemorating them? Mm-hmm. But look, if we're concerned about the fact that there's inequality in the world, we have to understand why that is. What kind of society are we in that makes us unequal? And the greatest inequality is between rich and poor, as well as other inequalities of racism, discrimination against women, and we can go on and on and on. But all of these inequalities stem from the kind of society that we live in, which is a very unequal society, a society geared to essentially making the rich richer and not really worrying about anybody else, a society concerned about making profits for a few, which creates all these problems of inequality, environmental problems, war, pandemics, racism, sexism, all of these things. So if we understand that that is the problem, then it is clear that we need a different kind of society. We need a society which is not geared towards making the rich richer, but is geared towards satisfying the interests of everyone. And then we have to work out, if you like, how to get it. How are we going to get that kind of society? And again, in 1945, they'd done some analysis of that, if you like. They looked at their own experience and they'd seen, okay, well, there is a struggle going on already in society to try and solve that problem. And the force which is going to be able to solve it are the majority of people who create all the wealth. In other words, those who work, who produce things, who create everything. And if those people get together, whether they're in Nigeria or Jamaica or Britain or the US, and recognize that that is what is going to change things, then that change is possible and even inevitable in some senses. But the problem is that we don't recognize it. And the powers that be tell us that we're living in a society which is democratic, where everything is wonderful, and if only you vote for the Labour Party, everything will be fine. Or if the Labour Party's in, they say, well, vote for the Conservative Party, that'll be fine. Or if you're in the US, they say, vote Democrat, everything will be fine. And you vote, or you do whatever, and it's not fine. And the reason it's not fine is because the society hasn't changed. The society is exactly the same. It's the same economic system, it's the same political system, it's the same everything. So to me, what is required is to change that economic system, to change that political system to one that favors the majority of people, where we are the decision makers, where all the wealth which is produced just for this country, which could solve everybody's problems, it could house everybody, it could feed everybody, it could educate everybody, it could provide healthcare for everybody. All of that is put at the disposal of the majority of people who actually create it all. So to me, in that sense, it's very simple what the problem is and what the solution is. Well, the difficulty is, as I said earlier, organizing people with that aim in mind, not to tinker about with things, not to change the curriculum, not to actually say, hang on, we actually want power. We want to be the decision makers. Like the Panthers said, all power to the people. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm really concerned about and interested in. And I think the difficulty is that we tend to get diverted from that. And the powers that be, meaning the government and others, the press, they continually put in things to divert people, to create confusion, or to get people fighting amongst themselves, rather than taking hold of what should be ours, what is ours, what we create, what we produce, what we develop in society. So that's the kind of thing people were talking about in Manchester in 1945, only in regard to the colonists. And they said, yeah, it's the working people that are the force which is going to change things, if they're clear about this is what needs to be done. And I spoke about Haiti earlier and the importance of history. And one of the things why history is important is because it shows us that ordinary people like us are the agents of change, the makers of history. If only we have that thinking that, yes, we can change things. We can change things completely if we organize ourselves, if we're conscious of what we want to do, then we can do all these things. Mm-hmm. But if we're not, and if we allow the enemy to create confusion and divert us here and divert us there, then it takes much longer to get to where we want to get to. So, as I say, to me, it's clear what we need. It's clear kind of how to get it, but organizing people, that's what takes the time and the effort and the work. And somebody earlier was saying how it's become fashionable to be an activist. I'm very glad to hear that. There are loads of people who want to be involved in organizing and act. Great. Whether they're going to be famous or not, because you can be sure after about 3 years, well,
they'll learn.
And maybe they'll have a different view, but that's good. And when things happen like what's happened this year, yes, everybody wants to be involved, and that's great. But to keep it going, some of us have been doing these things for like 40 years or more. But it still needs to be done. It still needs to be done. And if people are coming forward to do it, great.
Professor, I think that's such an amazing intention to leave with, in the sense of, I can see in every single person who's on this panel has a clear determination in the spirit of exactly what you've done, because we were talking about how everyone is in a strategic position to come together to create interventions that can bring about self-determination. And Tunda actually wrote that in the copy about self-determination.
Self-realization, self-determination, which is essentially, because actually reading Professor Hakim Agdi's revisited book with Marika Sherwood, you know what I mean? That was a reoccurring theme. within there. Do you know what I mean? And I think taking those lessons from the Pan-African Congress is, like you say, it's important for where we're heading. So yeah, truly, thank you. I mean, what we say in terms of
so the fundamental element of this See My World Festival is in the spirit of bringing back to life the intentions of the 5th Pan-African Congress, of which we were presidents that actually were on that campus. And it's such a blessing to have you guys here to relive that. And the point is that it has to be intergenerational, okay? All of you guys are playing such an influential role in your community and in your workspace. And we can see, we nominated you guys to be part of, and you, to be part of the panel, because we recognise, as human beings first, but also as a small organisation, that you're all creating change with the best of intentions. So I'm really glad that in the spirit and the essence of what Professor Akim Adi said, and we have read the book, the 1945 5th Pan-African Congress, that and obviously I was there when you did your book launch for Pan-Africanism and you signed it for me, didn't you? Yeah? That we...
I don't want you selling it on eBay for
But that we actually finished the youth conference on that note. So I just, from myself, I'd like to say thank you, Hiba, thank you, Tasha, thank you, Shiloh, Sideman, Tina, Professor Hakeem, for being on the panel, and
thank you Omoyele, thank you Lauren as well for all your hard work as well. I seen you there, like proper active, you know what I mean? It's really appreciated. Thank you so much. And obviously the audience and
everyone who turned up, big up to yourself.
Jensek, Tumi.
Big up Tumi as well. Also, big up the studio team. I wish we had a big pan because there's so many people here. So we have to give you some as well for participating.
Yeah, man.
So we've got Blackstone visuals on the decks. We've got Ricardo on the live stream. We got Courtney there on the timer. We got my man there, David as well. Blackstone visuals. We've got Natalie over there who helped with Courtney's workshop. So thank you so much, guys. It's been I've learned so much.
I mean, we also do, and you know, Lulu's around. Like, what's Lulu? We've got to big up Lulu because we actually, in that great fashion, as we enter. We then leave on a note, and of course it would be amazing if Lulu is still around. She's going to leave us with a closing address of this panel, and we're going to move into this one swiftly. But I mean, before we get into that, while she's getting ready, is there any final words from each member in relation to how we should be moving forward, you know what I mean, and how we're going to get there?
Well, she's really...
She's around this life,
Me! Go on.
No, I just think I'm a really staunch believer of young people. I think we really need to put time and effort into our young people. I mean, the organisation that I've ran, we've had 10 years with some young people, and when they say that a child's ego and what they think of themselves is formed by the age of 7. So you really, really need to put that time into our children, our young people, and work with them on a long-term basis to shape that mindset that's resilient and teaches them all the kind of lifelong transferable skills that they're going to need. I think that's really, really where part of where we need to go is investing into our children and young people.
Thank you so much, Christina. Sideman, any last thoughts on that for us?
I agree with what our professor was saying there, and I think it's basically I just think we have to tear it all down. This entire system is racist, and that's honestly what I believe. Like I got asked by the Associated Press the other day about me leaving the BBC. They said, so do you believe that like the BBC is a racist organization? I said, bro, this entire country is seeped in a system that is hundreds of years in the making, and it's not going to come down by any simple. This is a big thing.
He's glad he turned up now, isn't he?
Brain that it's disgusting. It's not going to be no simple thing to fix, and that's why I think that this whole thing it has to be torn down, and that's why I agree with Tina that the children are our future, because I honestly believe that for the system to change, some old people have to literally die. And obviously we're not killing anybody, so we're just waiting for them to literally dip off, because I believe that as the generations are coming, they're coming with more heart. These younger people have more heart. When I went to a lot of these Black Lives Matter protests, there were a lot of young white people there that don't agree, or have even said that they come from homes where their parents spew this nonsense. So that's why I believe that this entire system has to come down. We need completely new people in government, completely new people as CEOs, because this older generation of people that have used to the world the way it is, and ignorance is bliss, and they don't want to see no black diversity dancing about George Floyd and their Britain's Got Talent when they go to sit down for tea, because they want to completely ignore black issues and act like it doesn't exist. That system just needs to die out. So yeah, I think that the change is going to come. We just have to keep talking, keep putting our foot on their necks until they go away.
All right, so on that note, we'll move off to Medulla, but thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the poem.
There are oceans and seas that stand between you and me. And the story of our love is an old forgotten odyssey, and I know it's odd to see me be held by him. Be encompassed by a new set of arms, I feel like I'm forgetting the shade of those ruddy red palms and that deep drumming voice, religiously reciting foreign psalms. Your heart radiated a heat that hugged and honed my youthful body, and I never quite understood why your voice rushed when reading, or why psalms sounded sorrowful. But it was because you knew I wouldn't last long in your arms. Being with you was like loving someone who only kissed me in public. You wore your name on my passport for the world to see, but behind closed colonial doors, we were strangers. That was the danger of long-distance relationships. We had latitudes of land in between us. And the lies of our love had been left to marinate for too long, you see. I had heard of you, but only through televisions that told tall tales of your tribulations. I was taught that I have to leave you if I had any chance of an education, that you were no good for me, and I should feel nothing but gratification. It's been 18 years since I left you. 18 years that I've been waiting for your rescue, so it's 18 years that I've had to find a new place of refuge. But now he who holds me hates me, sells me dwindled dreams of democracy. I can see that he's looking at me through his colorblind prism, which is why he doesn't understand when I speak to him of isms, because my native tongue is a self-conflicting prison. He who holds me prays for our continued separation. He laughs at my inability to say no more than Urise as a form of feeble communication. It's like I'm watching myself, losing myself, but I'm struggling to change the station. The murmurs about my motherland have turned into echoes in my eardrum. I have lost home in this not-so-united kingdom, and I guess you could call it Stockholm Syndrome, because I was starting to fall for my abductor. The reason and the remedy for my Rhodesian rupture, and I knew this, but I still called him home. You, my home, and him, my harbor, have a complex history, so I have to choose. I have to choose between the love I have now and the love I once knew, but if home is where the heart is, my heart resides with you. We encountered each other again, and only then did I understand why the fruits of your labor tasted so bitter. We were by the Zambezi River, and I told you about the way that my lip quivers each time I try and utter a word in my mother tongue. But I'd rather stutter and stammer your sentences than speak his English with ease. Thank you.
Yo! Bless. Check us out, See My World at See My Fest, See My World Fest, and at Big People Community.
Yeah.
Signing off.
Lock in tomorrow as well. We've got a full day of events and a program, more workshops. We've got actually in the morning, if you're all about in the morning, Nay Davina is going to be doing morning mindfulness. So she'll be doing a nutrition, meditation and yoga workshop. Yeah, just to do that. Make sure you get your mats out and your gaff and get ready for all that stretching, you get me? And then obviously we've got workshops all throughout the day. Check our workshops. They're all there on the seemyworld.net website as well. We've also got another community panel where we're going to be exploring some of the themes that we've looked at today, but with other members of the Manchester community and wider communities, of course. And then we got a full-on party in the evening, so lock into that. We've got big boy and big girl DJs as well, and performances from the likes of some of the biggest
Misha
artists.
B, Roots Radix, we've got Chunks doing a special music video outside the Pan-African Congress space. We've got Darker, we've got Star One DJ, we've got DJ Snow.
Yeah, DJ Silver, Kimoy
B.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's
gonna go off. The only live event in Manchester.
Come on. You get me? So yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Wake up.